Hi there, and welcome to the Fellowship of the Ring Pull, our weekly hour and a bit blether about matters, music, and other stuff in the entertainment industry, whether it's careers or technical advice. We gather and share our thoughts, opinions, and it's something that I look forward to every week. It's glorious to see the same faces and then to see the new faces and all of that kind of stuff. If you are joining us live and fancy coming and saying hi, there is a Google Meet link in the video description down below. That's for YouTubers. Instagram, we're on live, but it's a slightly lesser experience on Instagram because it's a secondary thing. But if you want to join us in person, just come in, switch your mic off, and give us a wave when you want to speak, and it'd be lovely to introduce you to the fellowship. There's a few things I just wanted to get off my chest before starting. One of which is just to congratulate again Christopher for winning the Tina Guo competition. I believe that Tina and Christopher have been connected via the internet, and that virtual session will be happening soon. And I hope Christopher comes back to tell us all about it. Just a thing about competitions. We select a variety of different challenges for a number of different reasons. We consider ourselves to be highly kind of inclusive and welcoming into the Crow Hill experience. Understand that something that is technical, like a trailer competition, may not be something that, if it's the first time you've tried doing a trailer, it may not be something that you could expect to win. But I think it's a really good opportunity to get some important experience, to get a sense of your music being out there, learning to, a lot of people who put stuff on the internet will actually pick something that they want to score. And I think there's something really valuable about being given something to score. And you kind of go, oh, this subject matter is not particularly to my taste. The trailer maybe not cut accordingly to your kind of style of music. And I think part of the Crow Hill kind of ethos is to encourage that idea of gaining work through things that aren't necessarily directly linked to your ambition, but are ambition adjacent, as I've said. And I think there's no better opportunity than doing stuff that maybe you don't want to do with a deadline as well. So that's one of the main reasons for doing it. We do absolutely watch or listen to every single demo that's sent in. And everyone at Crow Hill are musicians of varying different disciplines. So you are being judged by your peers, and I'll be sure in a month's time we're going to be doing something very different with our YouTube channel, just for a month. And I'll be sure to give you an insight into that. So be rest assured that every submission is listened to and talked about, and then when it comes to picking winners, it's quite a kind of a lengthy process. And I think that something that's really important to talk about with these competitions is to think about what the purpose of the brief is. So it's not always going to be about awesome orchestral programming or amazing production or fantastic audio engineering or indeed complex compositions. It's about hitting that brief. So whilst you may have sent something in that took a long time and you felt was really, really good, did it fit the brief? Did it go to the picture? Those kinds of things is what we're looking, and that's as far as we can provide a real world experience of working out in the field. And people who have experience and people who have no experience are welcome to take part. On that note, we're launching, and the page will be launched tomorrow, which is thecrowhillcompany.com/composing- or dash challenge. That's where you find out about these monthly challenges. And do subscribe to the mailing list as well, because there's all sorts of opportunities that will come through there. So this month's composing challenge is to help us brand this podcast. I'm going to be making a detailed video tomorrow for the YouTube channel, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, to give you some pointers. But it's going to be, I think, possibly the most inclusive challenge that we've done this far, because we're really not looking for, do I say professional integrity? No, I don't mean that. I mean, we're not looking for complexity and ability with the craft of producing or programming or indeed engineering. What we're looking for is an idea. And what we're really hoping for is someone to help us to give our podcast an identity that is audio. And we live in a world that is so dominated by audio, whether it be podcasts or Spotify or whatever, that it's really important to get that brand across through people's ears. So what we're looking for is 15 seconds of music that can be used as like a theme tune, but the winner will be basically given a full commission, and the full commission will be alongside the usual 12 months of Crow Hill goodies, an actual commissioning fee. So we are going to buy the master from you, and we're going to pay £2,000. That's about $2,500 for your trouble. So it's a real world experience of being commissioned. This is what they would call a cattle call. They happen all over the place, where people give a loose brief. You come in, you send your stuff, and we will talk about the runners up, who will also receive Crow Hill goodies. But as I say, it's a real life opportunity. Now, there are some recommendations that Ben last week made, which if you haven't seen last week's podcast, do check out Ben's contribution. Ben Williams, he's a specialist in audio branding. And he said something, he would recommend going long. So write a longer piece, maybe a minute or a minute and a half, and then cut that down to the 15 seconds, because the commissioning will include creating a bed for us to introduce and maybe bring the program out with, the theme tune, but also what I'm really looking for is a mnemonic, and that's maybe something that we can talk about today. What is a mnemonic, and what are your favourite, most famous mnemonics? So what we'd like is 15 seconds of music and accompanying text, no less than 100 words, to form part of what we would describe as a pitch. And when thinking about the brief, I'm wanting something that is very unique. I don't want something that is dense. I would really prefer something that isn't made with commercial sample libraries, not even Crow Hill ones. If you are going to use samples and do it all kind of sequenced on your computer, then check out pianobook.co.uk, which has got a vast selection of really original free samples. So that would be a little kind of caveat from me. But really, what I'm looking for is the strength of the idea, and what we need to do is represent the personality of the podcast, which is frank, casual discussion from someone who's not a very experienced podcaster. So something that maybe is not too polished, not too refined would be my brief. As I said, I'll go into it in more detail in tomorrow's YouTube video, so subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. So we'll give you a month to submit. All of the details, T's and C's, will be on the page, thecrowhillcompany.com/composing-or-challenge. Just think personality. Bring your personality to the table. If there's a weird instrument that you play or a weird instrumentalist that you know, get them in and get our attention, because that's what we want to do with the podcast. We want it to be a welcoming, interesting place to visit once a week. Right. On that note, just one last little thing that I wanted to say is, for those of you who are signed up to the mailing list, you will receive every month a network dispatch. The Crow Hill Network is something that we're going to be working really, really hard to develop over the next year. In fact, something really, really big is about to happen with Crow Hill, and it may come as a shock to you. That's going to be announced in about 3 weeks' time. And something that's going to happen is we're going to work a lot harder on the network dispatch. Now, where the network dispatch is concerned, we love to highlight and promote your work, but we don't get many submissions for it. So if you haven't done already, just send us stuff in via the network forum, or indeed via demos@thecrowhillcompany.com. The reason I say that is over 100,000 people read that dispatch, and I know a lot of our clients, and a lot of our clients are very, very big composers indeed. So I see it as an opportunity not only to celebrate your efforts, but to also really provide opportunity. So if you haven't taken part, haven't read it, do have a look at the network dispatch. We see that being as a really profound part of our operation moving forward. I don't know if you saw the episode of the podcast with Steve Mazzara, again, another one to check out. You know, how he got to work with Hans Zimmer is, well, Hans Zimmer found him, not the other way around, and found him through a portal where his work was being promoted, celebrated. And that's what we're offering here. So do take part if you want to. Right. Those are my kind of public notices open. So shall we open up the Google Meet? And again, if you want to join us in person, there's Google Meet links in the video description down below. And it's great. I can already see some new faces there. Charles, that's a terrifying image that you've got behind you there. How are you doing this week, Charles?
I'm doing well. It's a clip from No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, and one of the best recent baddies, I believe, not least because of that terrifying bob haircut.
He didn't want to play the part. He was he said, "I'm not a violent man," blah, 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 blah. And of course, we all know what happened, and he did a great job. And it's one of my favorite movies. I had worked 2 films with Tommy Lee Jones, so it was fun to see what he was doing too. But this Spanish actor is just, my God, he always delivers. I think he got his start with Almodovar, if I'm not correct. Yes,
that's correct. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and did a lot of things with him. And my wife and I had seen a lot of those films that Almodovar did with him. And then when he started doing the films, the American films, I thought, God, this he's fantastic. And he got an Academy Award for this one, correct?
I believe so, yes. I think so. Yeah. Or certainly a nom.
Yeah. But he always, he does a wonderful job. And it's always impressive. The other one is a young Irish actress who played the wife of what's his name that gets the money. That girl that plays the wife, that we wonder if she's killed in the end.
Oh yeah, no, she's actually Scottish.
Oh, she's Scottish.
Yeah, she's brilliant, and she was actually in Trainspotting. Yeah, she's actually...
That's right, you're right.
Yeah, she's very kind of youthful looking, but she's been around for yonks. A fantastic actress, really, really amazing. The thing I found really interesting about No Country for Old Men is when the first time you watch it, you think there's no score. And Carter Burwell is one of my absolute favorite composers.
Me too.
I don't know if you've checked out the music for Miller's Crossing, but if you were to put that and the theme to Lord of the Rings side by side, possibly tempt Lord of the Rings with Miller's Crossing, I was always very aggrieved at the fact that Howard Shore, and I don't usually criticise other composers' work, but I was always aggrieved that an artistic decision had been made somewhere along the line to make the Shire, which is Hobbiton, where the hobbits live, Celtic. Which, for those of us from these shores, know that the Shire is based on the Cotswolds in Oxfordshire, so not necessarily a Celtic enclave. But interesting about No Country for Old Men is the second time you watch it, you realise there is score. It's just incredibly atmospheric and underplayed. But I think what is really fabulous about that score is the final cue, over the credit roll, which is absolutely fabulous. Something I wanted to talk about today, we've launched this competition to help us brand the podcast. And I just I've been thinking about it all week, thinking about menomics. What are they? And how Ben's description was brilliant. They're basically an audio logo. And I'm basically making a video, and I want to feature lots of strong menomics. Sometimes it's a sound, sometimes it's a bit of music. Sometimes when it is a piece of music, it is something that can be imitated. Sometimes it's a piece of music, say, for example, the Netflix menomic, dong. It can't really be imitated. If I were to play you that note on a keyboard, you wouldn't go Netflix. Just like the menomic at the beginning of Star Wars, which I believe is a B-flat major chord, if I were to play that on a piano, you wouldn't go Star Wars. It's specifically the instrumentation and stuff. And if anyone has any thoughts about menomics and whether they've been asked to create them, audio branding, I'd love to hear all about it. There's inadvertent menomics in, like, for example, Jaws. If I go Durnham, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm referring to the shower scene. And I think it's interesting how something like that, I think that is the most synced single cue in cinema history, the Psycho thing. It's always used to comedic effect to talk about women who contain a certain amount of threat. I think it was used in Finding Nemo for a horrible little girl. And I think that is a misinterpretation, because it was actually a man who killed Jamie Lee Curtis's mum in that. So I'm terrible with names and stuff. It's nice to see that we've been joined again by Mandy. How are you doing this week? So that was a really uncomfortable segue, talking about...
I'm good. How are you today?
Yeah, really, really good. Can you remind us where you're speaking from?
So I'm from Dallas, Texas, like Plano, Texas. It's in between Dallas and Fort Worth, kind of. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. And how is it out there at the moment?
It's nice. It's almost 80 degrees today, so it's nice and warm. But tomorrow we're going to have like crazy winds. And so Texas weather. We've
got a winter here in Scotland that just won't go away. It's like, I'm not going to be ignored. It's the minute you think spring is sprung, it's but hopefully we'll get a bit of a spring and summer here in Edinburgh. Yeah. I've always wanted to go to Texas. I've never been.
What? Oh my gosh! Yeah.
No, I've got to do it. It sounds like a brilliant place to visit. I've always said that Texas is the Yorkshire of the United States, in the sense that it's almost like a sub race of people. It's like, it's like
we think we're our own country. It's like if you're a Texan, then it's like we're the coolest state, obviously. So.
Brilliant stuff. And Jay, speaking from Guatemala, Guatemala was in the news, and I can't remember if it was for good reasons or bad reasons.
Probably bad. knowing this place, probably something bad.
I can't remember.
Clue.
How are you doing? You're all right. You're looking like the sun is shining.
Oh yeah, it's very sunny here and hot in a humid way, which I dislike quite a lot. But it's fine. I'm at the coffee shop, so cheers.
Good for you.
Good. I'm actually at the very last stages of finishing my first sample instrument. It's gonna be on Decent Sampler, and I programmed the living S out of it. I did the UI of it. That's what I'm finishing right now, just like finishing touches on the image. Yeah, it works. It's a thing.
Brilliant.
So I'll be sharing that with you guys soon.
Well, and the next, when it's all done and ready and up, let us know where it is, and we'll share it with the group. That would be a bit of a ring pull first, the first ring pull sample baby, which would be fantastic. Actually, that in good news, we've had the first Crow Hill baby as well. Our head of production, Cam, has had the most beautiful baby daughter with his wife, and she's called River, which is absolutely lovely. Which is it's great, and we're really trying to build this company around kind of family values and stuff. So there's going to be a really big change coming up very soon, and it's in about 3 weeks' time, and it's going to be really alarming, but it's going to be for the better. Like you, I've been working on my first GUI this week, Jay, and it's for something that we'll be releasing in 2 weeks' time, and it is the most ridiculous GUI. Hopefully it'll make you guys laugh, because it's really, really silly, but also cool, I hope. It's imagine a Swiss watch mechanism designed by Iggy Pop. That's my brief to myself. We've got some new faces. Moy, I don't believe we've said hello before. If you click on your microphone icon. There we go. It's the little microphone bottom left of your screen. It's brilliant. I love Zoom calls. It's always the composers with their patch bay routing. One sec.
There it is. Found it. Sorry, I'm a little bit clumsy.
That's all right. It's really weird. I can kind of see myself on your screen in the background. I'm famous.
I'm together with you guys on the YouTube as well. How's everybody doing?
Lots of thumbs up there. Where are you speaking from, Moy?
Well, I'm speaking from Florida, Fort Lauderdale near Miami. I'm originally from Brazil, but I moved here 30 years ago from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So I'm a transplant from music production. A couple of years ago, I was approached to do a short film, 16 minutes of music, and we ended up breaking a world records, 1,170 awards, something like that.
Wow.
And, it was quite a different experience coming from music production. And I came across your company, Crow Hill, and I was like completely amazed, how much of work you have done to this music to sound incredible.
Oh, that's very kind. And we've got Charles saying Charles was raised in Sarasota, Florida. I've got a good friend who's from, where's that place where George Clinton lives in Florida? Tallahassee? I always thought that was just a made-up place that you popped up in Disney films. Ignorant here. Mark Lee Osterland, want to say hi, but also I'm just trying to work out what microphone that is.
SE.
It's an SE. How are you doing? Where are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from near Aarhus, Denmark, and I'm not really a pro or anything, but I've been programming a bit of stuff. I'm warming up to doing an entry for the Q Film Music Festival, which is done by Aarhus Symphony. So,
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And I mean, just something I want to say, this podcast isn't, I don't like to kind of shill Crow Hill products and stuff. And as you'll see with Crow Hill, it will become much more about the network, the community, the act of making music, and we'll have a shop with lots of good stuff. That's the emphasis that I want to correct. You'll see a radical redesign of stuff, and I want to emphasize this idea that it's like art shops cater not just to professional artists, but for people who like doing art. And I think that in this day and age, we all need to escape a bit. And I think that everyone is born a composer. So I think that, just to be able to escape into some cool sounds and share those with people, I think is what it's all about. And Russell, Russell Hutchison, I don't believe, have we talked before? Yes, we have.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when the topic was Scottish weather, as it always is.
I think I recognise people more by their backdrops and their gear, because I don't look at people's faces when they've got a synth behind them. Well, thanks for joining us. And Martin, is that Nowatsky? Novaki?
Yeah, Novaki is the perfect way to say that.
Where are you joining from?
I'm joining from Strasbourg, France.
Oh, very nice indeed. And look, he's got his guitar now, so I'm totally distracted. I don't think my daughter's watching this, but it's her 13th birthday tomorrow, and she asked for a guitar. So there's another one bites the dust, another bloody life of... Well, we know, don't we? But no, actually, it was an incredibly proud moment buying her a guitar, and hopefully she sticks at it. And we can thank people. Well, it's because she went to see Taylor Swift and saw her playing, and I bought her a capo because Taylor seems to use those a lot. Nick, how you doing? Anyone who has any comments, questions, not for me, but for the group, any problems that you've got, but also any comments on menomics and what are your favourite or least favourite menomics. In fact, Martin, you're speaking from France. I have to say, the scariest menomic in the world, oh yes, Thames, very good, Russell. That'll mean a lot to people in the UK of a certain age. Bum, 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 da, da, da. And the little kind of writ at the end there. But Martin, the scariest menomic on the planet by far is that bloody thing that you play on the railways. Da, 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 da. Ah. I lost a gig because of that menomic. I was at Gare du Nord. I just arrived. It was in my drinking days, and I had a really radically Orwellian hangover. It's nearly 6 months, by the way, gang. That's a lovely thumbs up. So it actually genuinely means a lot. But it was in my drinking days, so I had a Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse hangover, and it went da 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 da, went like that. I had a panic attack so bad there were 8 people helping me. I was late to the interview for a really, really good French film and lost it thanks to that menomic. I don't know what you guys were thinking, but I guess they're an alert. But someone went, why don't we alert them with something really ominous? Give people a sense of impending doom. That way they won't get run over by the trains. So, Nick, how are you, sir? You've got your hand up.
Good. Hey, I'm at the gym. It's very echoey. I was all alone, and this is scary. Anyway, I was gonna say something, and congrats on 6 months. I think I've had my last drink in November, maybe. So that feels great. I mean, all the hours I've gotten back.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic. No, I was going to say about the competitions. I think one thing that you guys can improve upon is getting some kind of feedback to people, meaning that the submission has been received.
Yeah.
Just that. Because that alone, I was watching the competition, the results last week, and it was awesome. All of the submissions were absolutely superb, and I liked mine too, but I was you're sitting there wondering, especially in some of them, you're sitting there, has mine been seen? Has mine been even received? Not that you guys didn't watch them. You've watched all of the ones that came in, but like spam folders and
Yeah,
whatever technical things that email gets exposed to, like things like that. I took part in another competition recently where they had basically a Google form that you submitted to, and they had like a file upload there, and then it gave feedback immediately saying your submission's being
Great.
delivered, and then the organizers followed up like at the deadline. They basically sent an email to everyone who participated saying your submission has been received, and that felt great because now you know that you're kind of your name is in the hat, as it were.
Yeah, Nick, that's really good feedback, and we have taken that on board. It's probably something that we'll be implementing into the site coming forward, but that interim measure sounds like something that we should investigate. And no, I'm all for that. I mean, I know what it's like to pitch and to go, well, have they heard it yet? No news is good news, or whatever. So it can be quite frustrating to spend a lot of time on something, put it out in the ether and feel, well, maybe it wasn't found. We used to do in Spitfire competitions that were like based on a YouTube handle, and it was inevitable that some were missed, and people had spent so much time. So Nick, I really appreciate your feedback on that. We probably would have invested time in it before, but in my experience, not all of these things kind of work. Sometimes you don't get the take up. We can see that now that's going to be a thing moving forward that we're really going to take advantage of. So we will invest some of our resources into that. But thanks for that, and apologies if we have seemed... we are meticulous about checking all of those things. But you're absolutely right that if people are going to put the effort and time in, particularly with something like a trailer competition where people are kind of doing stuff that's frame accurate and all that stuff. Jay, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I have another comment, but on what Nick said, yes, because I feel like my submission got stuck in my mail. Like it got stuck in the Apple, so I don't know if it went through or not.
Right.
And it was violent. I feel like Tina would have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, okay.
But Nick mentioned it. So on previous notes about the Taylor Swift thing, I have a capo myself that is very interesting. It's very interesting because the people who designed this was designed because their kid wanted to gift something to Taylor Swift, right? And the dad was like, well, what do you want to give her? She's like, I want to give her a capo. This dude reinvented this machine from zero. And they're not cheap. Okay, I got mine at NAM for like $50. They're about $75 to $100. But they're beautiful. The company's called Thalia, I believe. And I'm outside, I'm not in the studio.
Okay.
I'll show it to you next week. But they're awesome if you want to check them out.
What we'll do is we'll check.
Taylor Swift capo.
Fantastic, Jay. We'll check that out. I'm going to cut you short, Jay, because the sound quality is bad because you're out in public, but it's doing that weird filtering thing. Yes, so we will definitely be working harder on the competitions. Something that we've not being able to do for a number of reasons that I'll probably talk about over the next few weeks is we were doing a kind of a series called Adventures in Sound, and for just a number of reasons. A lot of it to do with being overambitious on the number of things that we were doing and getting the time and the bandwidth to do it. But something that we're really hoping to do is to travel around Scotland at first, and then the UK, Europe, and then further afield, discovering amazing music makers and amazing sounds and stuff. I know that some of the team were up in Arran, and there's these caves in Arran that just have the most amazing acoustic. So we want to do a lot more field work and create little video documentaries that we're hoping to then release for people to be able to score and upload as part of competitions, but also experience as well. And I think that is something that there is. I think there are so many points of sale for music, and I think Ben Williams last week made a really good case for it not just being needle drop and just slapping some library music on, that actually stuff that's purposely composed, people shouldn't fear working with composers. That shouldn't mean that we're underpaid, but if you know what I mean. And I think that just gaining experience of that is fantastic. I, for one, I've been trying to do an album now for 7 years. And I've just finally come to terms with the fact that I'm just not going to be able to do it. So I've actually started on another project, which is going to be working to something to picture, because I just don't know how to write music without that stimuli. So that's something that I'm really hoping that we can look into doing. And we've got a few amazing filmmakers here in at Crow Hill, which is very, very exciting. Yeah, talking about the sobriety thing, I watched, is it Anora, the video that got all of the Oscar, the film that got all the Oscars. That was a massive trigger for me, because that kind of drinking looked amazing. So I had to watch out for that. But yeah, I mean, something that I'm really aware of is I'm in a program that's an anonymous, and I don't particularly want to break that anonymity by publicizing that. But it's it's very commonplace in our business. The need for settling down the busy brain and all of that kind of stuff. And it's been, a really shocking experience for me, actually facing up to how bad it got. But also, I've worked out that basically, and I've got to find the actual date, but it was day one of a Peter Andre tour that I was on. I was the assistant MD on a Peter Andre tour. That's when I started drinking every day. And I've worked out that since that day in 1997 to 5 months ago, I had a total of 4 days without alcohol, which is pretty fucking terrifying. So yeah, I think a lot of people get scared about giving up because that it requires a degree of commitment and all of that kind of stuff. But I've said if you've got time to drink, you've got time to give up drinking. David. So your mic isn't working. This is brilliant. This podcast is always going to be lots of silences with people fiddling around with patch bays.
Can we name it? Is this thing on?
I think it's on now, isn't it?
That is or another name, Nick, would be I can see it, but I can't hear it. I'm feeding back on someone. I don't know who that is.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I am, David.
So I just wanted to you're talking about sobriety there. Just to share something with my own background, I don't drink, never have, apart from probably a brief tasting session, so I'd know what I was missing. And the reason why, I come from a country that's associated with, I've been threatened at losing my citizenship for being a teetotaler. But the story in our particular case, both my parents are passed now. My father was an alcoholic, but I'm the youngest in my family, and I thought the perspective that you could get here, I wasn't aware of the problems because he was a gentle soul despite I detect the same from you, Christian. Some people get boisterous and really angry, but my father, they couldn't believe he was an alcoholic because he'd have a pint and what they used to call a small one and go home to his family, except he wasn't. He was going to 14 more pubs. And years later, I met people, for example, who said, I remember when your father was drinking, he thought he was living in America. He drove home the right-hand side of the road the whole way. And, all this type of, there would be no cars on the road in Malahide at the time. But the interesting thing for me is I didn't drink, not because I was afraid I would be an alcoholic. Just to give a perspective, I saw my mother screaming at my 2 oldest brothers who were drinking when they started. And I remember thinking, I don't know what they're doing, but when I grow up, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. But what I did witness was my father and my mother both, from the age of 7 for me, I saw them drop whatever work they had to do. My father was an upholsterer, and I remember him saying, all right, I'll be right there, I'll come get you. And it was some guy who was maybe 100 miles away or 60 miles away. And I'm going, Dad, you promised Mrs. So-and-so you'd have her couch delivered by Friday. You're not going to be, and he's trying to tell a 7-year-old, or, well, I would have been a bit older because he was sober a couple of years at this stage. He said, people come first. He would drop everything, go help somebody. So that's what I witnessed growing up. And I think it has affected me in a way that through my music, beyond professional work, I'm involved with things that are helping other people get. And I often wonder, they're not my ideas usually. I'm usually asked by somebody, would I do this? So some of my best ideas, or most of them, are from other people. But I have found that, you know, I didn't wake up saying I'd like to work with former prisoners, or I'd like to work with autistic children who are nonverbal. Somebody else said, you seem like you're very patient, would you? And for me, I just go with the flow now at this stage. And I commend you for how public you are at such an early stage of sobriety. But the day at a time, things seems to be the way to go. You know, it's and I wish you all the best with it. And
thank you, David.
You know, I'd love to meet you sometime over a club soda.
Absolutely. I'm feeding back on your mic. Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, sorry, do you want to mute? Yeah, David, can you mute your mic? There we go. That's better. Thank you, David. And I appreciate it. And, you know, I mean, the thing I've said is I'm yet to hear someone talking about this condition saying that their life got worse because they gave up drinking. But I mean, something that I'll just put this out there, and we don't want to dwell on this, but because it's not what this podcast is about. But something that has been really interesting, talking to a lot of people who are struggling or who have become sober, is the COVID really, really accelerated a lot of people's drinking, and I have actually been really, like, with hindsight, really pissed off because I didn't realize everyone was drinking during COVID. Like, I didn't realize people were like getting on the hooch early in the morning. I was still waiting till 6 o'clock, and so retrospectively, I'm really pissed off that I didn't spend those 2 years absolutely hammered like everyone else. But a good thing that's come out of the pandemic is that they had to put all the meetings online, and there are now literally thousands of meetings online, and it's something that if you don't want to talk to people in person or go into the rooms, as they say, there are just, you can go anywhere in the world. And I know people who go and hang out with alcoholics online in Hawaii. And then, you know, 6 months later, they went out to visit their friends and stuff. So there's a whole community out there. It's just worth saying, because I didn't know about these things until I looked into it. I mean, I don't want my channel or this to be about this. You know, I got a red card from my doctor, and my first response to that red card was to go to the pub. So I just needed help. And the one thing that I have really found buoying is just the power of humanity and the kindness of fellow humanity. And I think that we're in a really rough patch at the moment. And I think, just to go back to what you were saying, David, I think that music is a great uniter. And I think that should be something that we should be really, really encouraging people to take part in. And also, it's a really healthy escape as well, I think. So, Moy, you've got your hand raised. I don't know.
Yeah, I just wanted to share one thing. Here in the United States, the Americans have a saying, quit while you're ahead. And I think you did that. You know, you quit before something terrible happens. For example, I had this Russian music teacher. He was an alcoholic, and one day when he moved back to Russia, he went to his countryside house, And unfortunately, he drunk so much that he passed away in the side of the road, hypothermia due to being very cold. So I think it was a great decision that you went to a place that you had help, and now you're able to quit this terrible habit of drinking.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that tragic story, but they're so commonplace. And someone told me there's no such thing as a functioning alcoholic. It's just a stage. You soon pass from being functioning. But what I've noticed is there's no such thing as a functioning alcoholic. They're just alcoholics who've got money in the bank. And the reason I never woke up on a park bench is because I've got an Uber account. I could always get home. And I think that, it's very interesting, Mandy. I don't know what you think about this, but something that, David talked about, the kind of the Irish reputation for drinking. I believe they have it in Scotland as well. But I think the USA does a really good PR job on its drinking habits, because when I was in Tennessee, boy, those guys know how to drink. And in fact, when looking online at the biggest number per capita of alcohol-related deaths, America is like, again, this is me probably stereotyping. I thought it might be somewhere like Russia, but no, America is way ahead, but it does a good PR job. I don't know if you agree, Mandy.
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think with the vastness of the US too, and it's the driving, it's just terrifying. You just you're out, it's with our highways, up 80 miles an hour and things like that. It's just, but they definitely cover up. Yeah. Tennessee's crazy. That moonshine, that was no joke. Yeah.
And brisket makes you thirsty.
Brisket does, yeah.
Charles, you've got your hand up.
Well, I have one remark about the drinking, but I actually want to change the topic with a question. But the drinking thing, you have reminded me, when I lived in Nashville, there was a particular, I don't want to name his name, but, well, I guess I could, but he's deceased. There was a particular guitar player that I liked working with. And after my wife and I moved from Nashville because of the movie career, we were in Atlanta, and then I had to go right back to Nashville to do a film. And I called a buddy of mine, a guy you may or may not have heard of him. You ever heard of Bobby Goldsboro, the singer?
No.
He was a big deal back then. And his band leader was a guy named Tim Tappan. So I called Tim. I said, I'm in town. I'm doing a movie, blah, 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 blah. He came to the hotel. We chatted. And I said, by the way, how's so-and-so doing? And there was just dead silence. He said, you didn't know? And the bottom line is that particular guitar player was an alcoholic, which I was unaware of. Tim had set up a session, and this Don, I'll give his first name, Don did not show up. So Tim finally went to his house and broke in the front door and found him, he was dead in the bedroom. Oof. And what they figured out was that he had been so drunk, he had gone to take a shower. He fell down in the shower and bashed the back of his head and then went back to bed because he was dizzy and bled to death. So I'm very aware of that. And my dad, I know my dad was an alcoholic, but he never talked about it. But he helped countless alcoholics that I know of, because when he died, I opened his drawer, his desk drawer, because I was kind of the executor of the estate. And my father had money in the bank. I'll say it in a euphemistic way, lots of money. But when I opened that drawer, and it almost makes me cry now, I saw how generous my father was, because there were all these notes of indebtedness, people he had loaned money to or gave cars to. And on the envelope, he said, when I die, destroy these documents, because otherwise those debts would have been part of the estate. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So, but what I wanted to ask you, Christian, is in all of these that we've done, have you ever taken a census of the people who are now appearing, for instance, or ever? What's your bag in music? Like, is it rock? Is it hard rock? Is it symphonic? You know what I mean? How would you define the generic? How would you define what you think you do best, or you prefer to do, or people want you to do for them? And that's the question. So I don't know if it's a pertinent question, but I'm interested because I see all these faces, but I don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I know they're musicians, but I don't know what their bag is. So I'll turn off my microphone with that question out in the air.
Well, I think that's a great idea, Charles. And maybe we could like do a little round robin. People put their hands up who wants to share what they're doing. My particular bag is I'm a funketeer. I love the funk. And I have all sorts of very, very guilty secrets. When the house is empty, I turn up some pretty terrible music with a lot of notes and a lot of groove and a lot of splash cymbals and a lot of really, really unpleasant drum fills. And there's one band in particular which is my guilty pleasure. But there was a particular period, and I think it was 1996 maybe, when they were like at their peak of musicianship, and they're called Level 42, and they're from the Isle of Wight. And I only listen to that on my own. That's my secret pleasure. So maybe what's your bag and what's your secret pleasure? Stick your hands up.
But what I mean is, what do you like composing in particular?
You know, I like composing funk. And you know, I used to write music for porn films. That's how I started out. And there was this. I did this horror movie where they wanted to do like a 1970s porn scene. So I just got to flex my porn and funk muscles simultaneously. And the director was like, you know, do you think you'd be up for that? Because I know it's not like the score. And I was like, oh mate, you wait. Out came the wah wah pedal and the Wurlitzer, and yeah. Actually, I mean, some of the greatest like unknown funk tracks are these porn soundtracks. I just wish someone would find those master tapes somewhere, because they're clearly just musicians who are off their faces, just being paid to just jam whilst people get their nuts off. So,
Never scored the money shot. Was that the thing?
Never score the money shot. It's totally inappropriate. Yeah. The spotting sessions for porn films were really like, this is in the day. Basically, hardcore has not been legal in Britain for very long. It became legalized in the 90s during kind of internet. So before then, you basically had to get someone with a medical degree to sit and talk for a minute and a half at the front of a video, and then it was classified as an educational video. And you get like chiropodists and people who people who specialized in, I don't know, all sorts of toenails. So we used to write, used to have the spotting sessions, outtakes. They're interesting, really interesting. And a thing that's not talked about, and Boogie Nights discussed the whole how video revolutionized porn and the ability to churn out this stuff. But something happened in the 1990s that really made making porn a lot cheaper. And that was the heady cocktail of cocaine and Viagra. And the outtakes I've seen of people who are jacked up on that stuff was really pretty amazing. So yeah, one day I want to do a YouTube video of how I composed porn music back in the day. But basically, it wasn't I didn't use wah-wah pedals. We'd gone past that point. It was a lot of very Brian Eno stuff. And what we noticed was that if there was anything rhythmic, it tended to go in time with some part of someone's body, and it seemed a bit incongruous. So just keep it smooth and romantic. Now, Russell Hutchinson says, "Not wrong with beer. The older you get, fortunately." There was a great SNL skit about a couple of beers, a new thing that doctors should prescribe for stress. But has anyone got any guilty pleasures? Anyone got any interesting things that they like to do? Jay.
Let's hope this doesn't sound like bad. I'm actually, I mean, it's might be obvious for some. I'm like a full punk kid. Like I grew up on emo music and hardcore metal and stuff. Uh, Funny enough, the other way around, like film music and composing is might be my thing that nobody expects from me because I look like a metalhead. And but here's a kicker: worship music, like modern Christian music. It's something I enjoy quite a lot, and I was teaching at a church last year, so I'm like really into that. It's very interesting, especially for the keys.
Yeah, and amazing. There's a kind of tabernacle circle here in the UK where a lot of the big touring musicians come out of the church circuit here. Huge amounts of kind of harmonic complexity and stuff that becomes innate in these individuals. Mark Bellinger.
Hi. I haven't got the camera. Well, I'll put the camera on. I'm actually hanging in a hammock in the woods at the moment because I had the camera off.
You win. You win the prize for just oddest location.
It's a pretty odd location, but it's for my mental health. I have to get out of the house from time to time. So, hello everybody. So, no, to answer Charles's question, I may have mentioned in a previous one of these that I'm doing with VMAX, we're doing VR movies, and I have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest. So I've been going down the route of ambiosonics, and because the current story we're telling, it's got no dialogue, so it's really important that the music tells the story. Yeah, it's really fascinating how ambiosonics works, and obviously being in VR. It's what do you do in ambiosonics? What do you do in 3D sound? So it's actually physically in the scene. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm doing. But as far as influences, I'm just fascinated by Electric Light Orchestra, and that's my favourite go-to. I just think it's just the most amazing compositions ever. I could listen to that forever. But anyway, I'm going to turn my camera off because I don't think you want to see me in my hammock.
Every week we want to see you in your hammock. It's a rod for your back. Let's see if next week someone can beat Mark on location. Maybe I should do one from the top of Crow Hill in the future when the weather sorts itself out. Nick, Pulavin.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I have a weird story. I'm from Ukraine, and I guess I graduated high school and would have been 2006 or so, but I've kind of like ever since maybe middle school and a little older, I've really been into blues and rock and roll, like Delta blues and Gene Simmons or rather Vincent and them people, rockabilly and rock and roll and Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I think when I heard the first Black Sabbath record, Paranoid was that was the record that I heard. The drum sound on that, I think I fell in love with music then somehow. Yeah, that particular record is outstanding, and yeah, funk Christian. Yeah, I totally I'm on the same boat. Like the Meters and Sly and the Family Stone. That's kind of my stuff. Also Paul Simon. Actually, since maybe a couple of years ago, I've really gotten into Paul Simon. And again, because of, I think his songwriting and his sound too. The production on his stuff is outstanding. Also the sort of the instruments that he uses and stuff like that. So yeah, plenty of good music.
Nick, have you seen there's a Sly on the Phone the Sly on the Family? Well, there's a Sly Stone documentary on I think it's Disney Plus at the moment. It's well worth checking.
No, I have not. I'll run, not walk to see that because that's I love that stuff. We're in Mexico now, and the Zeppelin documentary was on for like 3 days in IMAX, and we got to see it, and it was awesome. Like the early Zeppelin, they sort of talk about the first couple of albums and how they got together and how they started out. That stuff was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Just going back to Sly and the Family Stone. It's really weird when people talk about funk history, and indeed, you know, I see funk as a direct antecedent to hip hop, particularly West Coast. It's funny how it tends to fall into two camps, like the George Clinton and the James Brown, and I'm amazed at how often Sly and the Family Stone is left out of funk history, and they are such a key component. And the funk they were doing was in the late 60s. You know, it wasn't this 70s phenomenon, but also they were so groundbreaking for having such a multicultural lineup. But also, you know, I'd say that Sly Stone was one of the first people to do those kind of own-produced, sitting with a drum box, all of that. There's a riot going on. That album is a total kind of antecedent to, say, Prince's Sign of the Times, which he did all on his own. I just think it's something that I don't know why Sly and the Family Stone kind of gets left. I mean, I saw a documentary about the history of funk, and they just didn't mention their name, and it's like
that's insane. That's absolutely insane to me. And there was another cool documentary that Questlove made a few years ago about the Harlem something festival. Essentially, it was just like, it was basically Black Woodstock, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it was there's a clip of like 19-year-old Stevie Wonder absolutely shredding on the drum kit, like absolutely destroying it. And I think Sly Stone is on that show, as well as all of the gospel singers like Mavis Staples and all of them people. That was fantastic. I saw it on the plane, and I was absolutely blown away that I've never heard of this before. And it was this kind of like summer in the park. I think it was either 68 or 69 or something like that. And that was absolutely fascinating to see.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's such an important music form that, yeah, I think that it deserves more attention. One of the things I'm most proud of is having witnessed the birth of hip hop. I think that is the real treat of what, you know, it's like witnessing the birth of jazz, and I remember that stuff just happening, and it just sounded like music from another planet. But I think I liked it also because it had its roots firmly planted in the funk. Someone else has got there. Jeremiah, you've got your hand up. I have something I was going to say. How you doing, Jeremiah?
Oh, I'm great. Yeah, I'm good. Vancouver here is nice and bright outside. It was supposed to be rainy because it's Vancouver, but it's not. So that's fantastic. Thanks for asking. On the note of births of genres, I don't know if I'm naive to prior birth of hyperpop, but I think hyperpop has become, in the past decade, my sort of guilty pleasure. I'm not really feeling guilty about it, but it's this very, for those who may not know it, I don't know, very expressive, dynamically assaulting version of pop. So you might have heard it on Charlie XCX is a more popular mainstream version of it, but loads of other great artists that have come in years recent. And it's this, something about it is like this rave music, but it's also experimental depending on what you're listening to. And it always just gets me going. There's a great band that used to be together here in Vancouver called We Are the City. And they kind of started to edge into that at one point. All of them are hyper expressive, but they were playing like rock pop and implementing these really rich analog synths. And the drummer was just erratic. And that's what got me on another level with my performances personally. I felt like, and got me thinking of drumming differently. He kind of drew inspiration from Death Grips and things like that, where there's this really jarring chaos about it. I think that sort of thing really caters to me. But in regards to my own like production, my own music that I like to make, very different. I remember listening to disintegration for the first time here, and realizing that maybe the classic rock I was raised on wasn't exactly what I wanted at all times, and really digging into the goth, the sound, the big expressive reverbs, and again the richness of synth. And I feel like that's kind of what I've started to become. I mean, I played in more experimental rock bands and catering to soundscapes. Now I've kind of landed myself into what you might refer to like ambient industrial, I would say, but I like dipping my feet everywhere. It's kind of nice because ambient music is a broad spectrum, and industrial also steals from a lot of stuff. So I think those are really exciting places to be, and probably it sounds like on maybe realizations of a lot of people here, but maybe on a different spectrum to what people are commonly listening to, because I'm hearing a lot of funk rock and classics and things like that. So yeah, I guess maybe I'm an outlier here, but maybe that's also someone's guilty pleasure.
No, thank you for that. I was distracted because, of course, was just remembering that it's forgotten that Sly and the Family Stone played Woodstock, and their performance in Woodstock is absolutely sensational. Ethan Dickens, you have your hands up. Where are you? Hello, mate.
Hi, how you, mate?
How you doing?
Hi, you all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good too. I'm good. Yeah, I was going to ask a question, but then as soon as you said my name, I just went all embarrassed, and I don't know what to say now.
do you want us to come back to you? No, go for it, mate.
Well, I've got a question, but it's advice again. I've been writing with my brother for many years, and since 2009, I've been writing for long. Since 2009, we've got like 520 projects. We've been writing, and we struggle to sort of like find a deal these days. We need advice on that really, because we was on a legendary Fierce Panda Records, but yeah, these days as we're getting older, we're writers, and if anybody out there knows how to sort of get yourselves out there, and
yeah,
who to contact, that sort of thing.
Ethan, I'm probably going to reply with one of those answers where you want to throw something at the screen, but someone it was like one of those just wonderful questions someone posed me years and years and years ago. I was in a band, and we had this really good manager who was interested in managing us, and the band was good, and we were writing okay songs, but we could really play. And he said, what's your ambition for the band? And I said, we want to get a record deal. And he went, that's your ambition, a legal document. I think that the question to ask Ethan is where you want to take your music, and what tools you need to achieve that goal, and if the legal document that is a record deal is what you need to look for. I mean, my personal thing is, and it's always been the way, but record deals are basically bank loans. So yeah. Just like anything else, it's like, well, what are you going to leverage against that loan? I think there are way more interesting ways of getting your music to the masses. And I think that something that I would do is I would look at Jack Conte. Is it Jack Conte, who's the founder of Patreon? He's got a really good YouTube channel. Doesn't get millions and millions of views. Should do, because he's also a musician, and I think that his views I really subscribe to, this idea that we can create our own little mini industries ourselves. And I think that the kind of old school contracts, it's like we had this question about management as well. I think that contracts, managers, publishing deals, record deals. These are all things you pick up when you're on a crest of something that you have created. But I don't think that it's about scouts going out to gigs anymore and finding and A&R men. It's, you know, I mean, it's a long time since, and you know, people were, I mean, the 1990s, all of the majors just dropped their development budgets completely. And you know,
it seemed like a time. Sorry, it seemed like a time. The 90s seemed like a time that you had to be living in Camden to get signed to a major label.
Yeah,
you know.
there was those 3
So
clubs
all-
in Camden.
Coldplay, Oasis all moved to Camden, didn't they?
Yeah, but I think that those times have changed. I mean, my experience of modern.
That's why I asked you, really, because you were talking about the music industry a couple of weeks ago, and you said, "I wouldn't even bother going there."
Yeah,
Not bothering with it these days.
well, I think it's. I mean, so, my brother. No, I won't go there. From what I've experienced, record contracts are incredibly binding, and they know, as well as all of us, that you're not going to make money out of record sales. So why are they going to invest in you? Well, they will want returns off everything you're involved with. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
360 deal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
Like
not. I mean
360
it's more than that now these days. It is unbelievable the deals that people are signing and are trying to get out of. Yeah, they want you, your following, they want everything you do, every piece of merchandise, your podcast, absolutely everything. It's, you know, a lot of comedians do podcasts, so I'm a bit more familiar with that profession than I probably should be. But, you know, these young comedians now signing these management deals is the managers want cuts of their sponsorship deals from podcasts, all of that kind of stuff. So I would be that they're not going to. I don't think they're going to find you your audience. They're gonna sign you a deal based on your audience, and I think that it's all been switched. And it happened in the 1990s. You know, every major label had a roster of 200-300 acts that they were developing, and the minute people could do shit in their bedrooms, they went, there's just no point in investing in this anymore. Why don't we come off? I mean, something that we should definitely continue is talking about people's bags and guilty pleasures. But I think this is a really important question that Ethan has raised. So, has anyone got any thoughts on this? Particularly,
Well, it's a difficult question.
No, I think it's really important because I think that a lot of people think that is the route, and a lot of people.
Got nothing left to lose.
Yeah, no, but I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are asking the questions how to get heard, how to get your stuff out there, and I think that it can open people up for getting into binding deals. Okay, I mean, just as an example, you know, something that I'm really aware of is people getting commitments from a third party where their music's concerned, and they just fucking sit on it and don't release it. I have an experience of doing something that I gave 2 years of my life to, and it just hasn't been put out there. And it's like that is such a huge commitment to give. So I think it's something that, you know, and when you get to 53, you're aware of the finite nature of certainly your working life. You know, by rights, you know, I'm 12 years away from retirement. And to give away, I can't do the maths, but like 2 years of that is substantial. I don't know if anyone else has some thoughts on that. Miles, Porter, is that what you were going to talk about, or?
Yeah. I actually, much like you, Ethan, I been producing music with my older brother Demian for since 1996, since when really since Tracker software came out, like going back to Impulse Tracker and all those. And, you know, then we switched to 4-track, and we were so excited when we got our first 4-track. And then finally, what was it? Sony had owned Acid Library, you know, Acid Loops in Vegas. And we had submitted songs to Taxi, And I think in a year we had submitted 35 and we were always rejected, but we still just kept doing music. And we actually we had a little garage studio that we set up in Phoenix, Arizona. And we put an ad in the Yellow Pages and we started getting calls, and we paid back in 99, I think we paid like $30 a month or something for an ad in the Yellow Pages. And we got a call for some dude that used to work with Ice-T and had a deal with Warner Brothers, and it fell through. And we did a little project with him, but going back to alcoholism, he suffered alcoholism. We even opened up for Digital Underground in Flagstaff, Arizona, but the promoter didn't like us because we had more equipment between our synthesizers, drum sets, and guitars, that the promoter pulled us off stage when we were about to go on. And this was, that would have been like 2001. But we still pursued music, and we still continued doing music, and we ended up leaving the chap that worked with Ice-T. And we started producing music for other people. We started producing hip hop, and we used to have all sorts of people coming over from, all walks of hip hop, and charge them $25 an hour. And they would book the studio for weekends. And I mean, we were still living at our parents' house, and they would come out front, and there'd be like 30 people outside our yard hanging out, smoking blunts. I think we had the Crips hanging out at one point. And we were stacking cash. I mean, $25 an hour. Each rapper would book like an 8-hour session, and we started doing that. And we opened up a bank account and started an LLC. And fast forward a lot of way, we got tired of making products for artists that weren't doing anything with it. We would produce, engineer, and master a full-length album for these hip hop artists, and even go as far as getting it on iTunes. But then they wouldn't do the promoting. They wouldn't book the shows. They wouldn't, and they would come to us, and I'm like, we already did our job. I'm not going to be your, the songwriter, the engineer, the mixer, and your promoter, and where we were already wearing enough hats. And it basically got to the point where we said, you know what, let's just focus doing music, our own music. And that was around the time YouTube was getting big, and SoundCloud had just come out, because that, I believe, came out before Spotify. So we started doing remixes. We did like a Peter Gabriel competition for Games Without Frontiers. And we even have songs on Spotify and all the platforms. And I'm lucky if we get 8 listeners a year. And I think our biggest royalty check from all that was maybe like $39. And we're on ASCAP, BMI. All of our music and recordings are copyrighted before we submit everything. And at 40 years old, I am very blessed. I have a wife that lets me overrun the house with music instruments. And I mean, our dining room has an 1860 pump organ in it, an Este pump organ that still plays. The bellows work great. My father was a musician. He was a guitarist. He tried out for Chick Corea, but he had to make a decision because Chick really liked him, but my mom was pregnant with my older brother, so my father couldn't do that. He practiced Sri Chinmoy and followed John McLaughlin and Mahavishnu Orchestra. So growing up, to touch on the guilty pleasures, I guess, my music upbringing is anything from Sergei Rachmaninoff to Joe Zawinul to the Beastie Boys to Billy Strings, Joni Mitchell, Skinny Puppy, Kevin Key.
Very nice, Miles.
All the way up. But what I would say is, don't give up. Keep doing it. Keep putting it out there. Get on Instagram. And I got into scoring music. So I went to film school at 40 years old. And I wrote and directed a feature-length film. And I figured I can't get any work scoring it. So damn it, I'm going to take money, raise money, and produce my own movie so I can score the damn thing. So that's where I'm at right now. But Ethan, if you want to send a message through here, I'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But
thanks.
It's
sorry.
Like Christian said, it's it's a much different industry now than it was 30 years ago.
Thanks for that, Mars. It's a nice story. I mean, I think that we all. There's something that I've noticed, and I never wanted to do the YouTube channel. Is it's not like the old days. There's always been this incredibly steep hierarchy, and you just look through the history of mankind, and musicians have never earned money. There are this top cream of the top who do, but I think that there are opportunities to find an audience, and there are ways in which we can share music and monetize that. I think that the problems with kind of reaching an audience, going out and touring, selling records, earning money, I think these are all very, very different ambitions. And I think it is about, oh God, I mean, again, it's so cliched, but as a 53-year-old, it's kind of what you want to get out of life. I realized a lot of dreams, film scoring and doing TV work and stuff, and realized that I was desperately unhappy, chasing that, being part of this weird rat race. And all of these different corners of the music industry have these different hierarchies and all of that kind of stuff. And some people are built for it, some people aren't. But the people who are successful and stay successful in the music industry, because the attrition rate is unbelievable, tend to also have a business head on their shoulders as well. And that's something that all I say is, like, entrepreneurialism is a form of converting creativity and ideas into something that you can hopefully support yourself and your family. And I think that thinking out of the box and being creative with that is the name of the game. DJ Steve Warner, I love your online handle there, sir. You've had your hand up for a while. How are you? And again, we've got a Patch Bay issue. Your mic's not on. Still not on. It's brilliant. Because of everyone's studios, I can see LEDs going in the background. Like, got to put switch the old Phantom on maybe. And suddenly we realise that Google Meets don't like phantom power. Everything goes to shit. While you're figuring that out, Steve, Kelleris, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I've missed that. I've literally just come back to my mum and dad's house. My brother is coming down with his nephew tomorrow, so I'm not at home, and I was on the train on the way down, so I missed the first half. But I just caught the last bit of that question, and I mean, I'm still relatively young. I like to think, anyway. I'm only in my early 30s, but even I've noticed in the last like 3 or 4 years, there's been a massive shift in the whole major label sort of ecosystem, where a lot of stuff they've from my outside perspective, and they a lot of them have gone in and bought all of the smaller labels and distributors. And it just seems they've really like everything's got much more cornered again. It feels a lot more than what it sounds like it was before streaming came around, and there was kind of a streaming revolution, and it kind of got democratized a bit. But it kind of feels like that's been kind of cornered again. I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way, but there is a lot of. I mean, I do some writing camps. I'm actually on Warner Chapel camp next week, but they do seem to have their fingers in many pies again. It seems that way. Like a lot of, especially on the catalog side. I did some work with a company called Hypnosis, and some people probably heard about them, where they were literally giving ungodly amounts of money to buy really famous catalogs like Bowie and loads of other people like that, and they were basically just reworking that catalog. So I was doing like trailer remixes for some tracks, and just the amount of money that's been getting thrown around on that side of it, but it's only at that sort of upper echelon is crazy. But it really does feel like the only way that I can think of it is like, it's been really kind of cornered. That they've really kind of felt like it's been squeezed a lot in recent years. I don't know if anyone else thinks that way, but
From what I'm seeing, the synchronizations are so massively important now. And it's not the sync fees and the mechanical buyouts and sorry, that's the wrong term. It's not the sync fees and the money that you're earning directly from those synchronizations. It's the impact they can have on your catalog. And I think that's the model that Hypnosis is modeling, is by owning a huge amount of the catalogs out there. They stand a better chance of getting that, whether it be something from the Who catalogue. I don't know if they bought that, but for example, what happened with the Who, or what happened with Kate Bush, with Stranger Things and stuff. What's a shame about that is it's not supportive of the young and up and coming. And if that isn't invested in, then where does it go in the future? But these systems, we always have these, like whether it be MySpace or the remix market or hip hop, or there's always these times where it's democratized and it's going to be, and then what happens is you get these really extreme hierarchies form. And then someone gets really, really burnt from that, and the whole thing collapses again. And in fact, the company you speak of, I believe, there's been some. It's not all roses there, because a lot of money has been spent, and that line of credit is now wanting its return. Steve, back to you. Have you got your microphone sorted?
I really hope so.
You do. Brilliant.
Hey! Watch this. Alludes like Tonic. Right, so basically, one of the things that I was hearing about was a lot of record labels buying up back catalogs, basically, because there seems to be a rise in suing people.
Yes.
For incorporating melodies and all this. There's a thing, what's it called? It's interpolation, something like that.
Yeah.
It's basically, if you've got something, a nice melody, and a mnemonic, something like that, but basically people, if they've got it in a sound, one of their tracks, and it even sounds like that, you're being taken. They seem to be making an awful lot of money, just basically through the process of suing. Rather than making music, they're basically weaponizing their music.
Yeah. It's a big part. Steve, I'm going to interrupt you because you have a noise gate on your mic that sounds like it's set to snare top. So we're just getting the transients. But Steve was talking about the buying up of catalogs, so for suing people, and it's become a sub industry itself. If you guys, and I think this brings it nicely back to a subject we were talking about earlier, if you guys want to find out more about this sub industry of people making money out of suing people who have sampled stuff, check out George Clinton's website, because he's done a big report of that. So basically, there are these huge legal companies who can prove that you've taken or nicked a riff from a P-Funk album. They win the payouts, but they don't distribute them to the artists because the artist cannot prove that they wrote that riff. Was it you who wrote that riff, or was it Bernie Worrell? Well, where's the record? Well, they don't have records because, I mean, obviously the record is the recording, but no one's to use legalese, no one's taking contemporaneous notes on who wrote what riff that then gets sampled or turned into, a hook for a dance track. So there is this amazing sub-industry of people who are absolutely rinsing artists out for so-called grooves or whatever that they've nicked, but they're not paying it across to the artist because the artist can't prove that they were the author of those, which is, I think, a sad state of affairs. Listen, it is time to draw things to a close, but I think that there's a lot of food for thought there, and I'd love to continue this conversation about how we make a living out of music and how we support up and coming acts, because they are the future. And I think that music is going to have such an important role in our lives over the next few years, because we are living in, was it Confucius said, beware of living in interesting times. So on that note, I'm going to thank everyone for joining, as I do every week, because it's a joy and I look forward to it so much. There's some really big news coming up about Crowhill and about the future of this project, and it's good, but there is going to be change, and we've got some a really fun thing coming out in Vaults next week, which is I think, I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you guys. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, and check out the page, the crowhillcompany.com/composing-or-challenge, and we will absolutely take on board the comments made about the way that we run these competitions and see what we can do in time for this competition to certainly acknowledge people's hard work in contributing and taking part, for which we're always incredibly thankful. So on that note, join us next week, same time, same place, 1900 hours, that's 7 o'clock p.m. UK time, to have a blether about music, a moan, to ask questions, to answer questions, and to hear about how to write music for porn. See you later.